Nation Warriors, welcome to Warriors Unleashed. I am your host, Positively Pat Sims. We were actually not here last week, so it is great to see each and every one of you back here this week. I can't wait for this episode. Last week we were off because last weekend was WrestleMania 42 weekend, and as you know here on the Positively Pat Sims YouTube channel as well as WANT, we were stacked with content that we were putting out, including Saturday morning's 4-hour WrestleMania preview show, as well as our WrestleMania reaction shows after both nights. And so with a jammed-packed WrestleMania weekend, I decided that I was going to take 1 week for Warriors Unleashed off, and we were going to come back strong tonight. And tonight's episode is called Defying Expectations, because every warrior eventually faces a moment where life, people, circumstances, or even their own mind says this is as far as you're going to go. But true warriors like us answer back, watch me, right? And I want to address here very quickly, this isn't just a show about defying the expectations that others place upon us. I made it very clear here in the opening. This is also defying the expectations we place upon ourselves. So a lot of times in life, we are our own worst enemy. Our mind is what gets in the way. And then we use excuses to blame everything else around us. It's something I saw a lot this week throughout the week as I was going through my job and I was doing other things. I kept seeing a lot of people pointing the finger and placing blame onto others when they should have been looking inward, realizing their mistakes, and then learning from them and moving forward. So a lot of times we are our own worst enemy because we either are too stubborn to see the truth or we limit ourselves. And that's what we're talking about here today. We lower our expectations for ourselves. And that could be because of past failures. It could just be because we have low self-esteem. Whatever the matter is, we place those limitations on ourselves, which is, to me, just as bad, if not worse, than when we allow other people to place those expectations on us and those limitations, right? And this is what we're talking about today. So we're not talking about when people place too high of an expectation on us, because that's a whole nother story. This is when people try to limit us. And they watch us and they see our dreams and our goals and what we want to accomplish in life, and they go, that's never going to happen. They tell us, you're too old. You're too young. You're not handsome enough. You're not pretty enough. You don't have the right genetics for that. You're too fat for that. You're too skinny for that. You don't have the perseverance for that. You don't have the willpower for that. You don't have the passion for that. The you don't haves in this life. And like I said, it's even worse when we put those on ourselves and we tell ourselves, oh, you're too this, you're too that, you're not enough of this, you're not enough of that. You can and you will achieve. You can and you will be successful. It starts up here in your head. As Dallas likes to say, those 6 inches of real estate between your ears. That's what we're talking about here on Warriors Unleashed tonight. I want to give a big shout out and a welcome to all of our listeners over at WANT Radio. It is great to have you here. We've been on WANT since June of 2023 when WANT first got started, and we've been there from the beginning with the Positively Pat Sims Show, and looking forward to many more great episodes and years to come with WANT. I also want to send a big shout out and a welcome to all of you viewing us here on YouTube. We do have an interactive live chat here on YouTube for all of you viewing us live and in the moment. And so take advantage of that. Say hello in the live chat so that I can say hello back. If you've got questions, if you've got things you want to say, put it in the live chat. I just might read it. You really want to make sure your messages are read out loud live on the air. Your questions are read live out loud on the air. Then you can use our super chats. That is the best way to make sure that your questions and your comments stand out for me to read for the whole world to see. For the millions and millions of Sims Nation listeners and viewers. Good evening, Yoga Ron. I'm guessing that's my buddy Ron Rawhoof, who was a guest on the show when we did our mental nutrition episode. Fantastic episode, and it was the first time we ever played Two Lies, One Truth. That was a lot of fun. We included that on my 5-year DDPY anniversary show. That was fantastic. I want to say hello to Chris Hall, who's also in the live chat. Great to have you on, Chris. And Chris, one of my fast track clients and a dear close personal friend of mine. Ladies and gentlemen, he was a part of WrestleMania weekend. He was there for in the live chat for the shows, and he was actually a very special guest on our WrestleMania 42 Night 1 reaction show. So very, very great to have all these guys in there. Of course, my wife's in there, as always. So let's get moving here. I actually decided I was going to do something different tonight. Usually, Warriors Unleashed is one of those kind of organic shows where I just like to just go, right? I don't have a script. I just go at it. And I let the topic take me away. I let the live chat influence me and that kind of thing. This time I thought, you know what? One of my issues is I don't stay on topic. I let outside things get in the way of what I'm trying to accomplish. So, that being said, I actually have notes. And not a script so much, but kind of just an order to things. And so I'm going to try that tonight. I'm going to see how that goes. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. You get more out of it because I'll stay on target. Mr. Chris Hall in the live chat will probably be the first to tell you that my morning messages to my fast track clients would probably be 3 or 4 minutes max if I just strictly stayed on target and on topic. My Positively Pat Sim shows would probably end early every Saturday if I stayed on topic. So, all right. One of the things I'm going to be doing is I'll be working in kind of my own story as we go along. I want to hear about you guys as well as we go so we can talk about what you guys put in the live chat. But starting off here, all right, the people who defy expectations are usually doing these 3 things. I want you to remember these 3 points that we talk about here. Number 1, they refuse to let other people's labels become their identity. And I want you to also, because I didn't put it in here, I also want you to turn that into your own. So you don't let your own or other people's labels become your identity. All right. So especially when it comes to negative. All right. Because those negative labels can really drag you down. And if you let those become who you are, right, that can be a problem. One of the things I used to do is when I was really heavy and unhealthy is I started telling myself, you know, I'm just going to have to come to the realization that I'm just a big guy. right? We all I think a lot of big people all tend to get to that point where it's like, you know what? I'm a big person. This is who I am. I'm just going to have to learn to love me for who I am. And that's not always the truth. It just ends up being your truth. It just ends up being the story that you tell yourself. And eventually I changed that story. And no, it's not all about looks and stuff like that. It's about overall health and fitness, right? And I changed that within me. And now I don't let anyone else's labels become my identity anymore. I am who I say I am. I am going to be who I say I'm going to be as I push forward. All right, number 2, the people that defy expectations turn pain into purpose. All right, think about that one, because that one can be pretty deep for a lot of people. They turn pain into purpose, because so many of us, we have to deal with people telling us we can't. You start to deal with yourself, your own mind telling you you can't. I don't care who you are. That can't feel good. You're never going to be successful. You're never going to be what you want to be, so you might as well settle for what you can be. I've been told that a lot. Or settle for what you currently are. Right? It doesn't feel good. It's painful to be told you can't. It's painful to be told that what you want out of life, you can't have. You want to be a successful entertainer? You're not going to get there. You're too old. You're too heavy. You're not pretty enough. I mean, come on, look at me. I'm pretty enough, right? But you turn pain into purpose. It's taking all that negative energy that they're feeding you, or that you're feeding yourself, and transforming it into positive energy. Change the story. Repurpose negativity into positivity. Turn pain into purpose. Number 3, the people that defy expectations, they keep showing up long after everyone else assumes it's over. You always hear it ain't over till it's over, right? It ain't over till the fat lady sings. It ain't over till it's over. What does that mean? It means as long as there is breath in your body, as long as your heart is beating, you can keep fighting. You can keep moving forward. Life, right? Life doesn't have a time frame that you can for sure go, okay, here's the beginning, here's halftime, here's the end. It's not a football game. Life is a complete unknown. You don't know when your life is going to stop. There's no guarantee on that. You don't know when you've reached the halftime of your life. What's really amazing is that's what makes life so special. To treat every moment as if it's the fourth down. In the fourth quarter, where you're down by 6 points or 5 points, whatever you want to say. You got one final shot at the end zone. That is what every day is like in life. And some people go for the end zone. And some people, unfortunately, take a knee and just give up. The people that defy expectations go for the end zone. And then they come back and do it again the next day. And they come back and they do it again the next day. The people that just stay at the status quo, They don't do that. The people that keep sinking further and further and further down, they don't even show up. So keep showing up long after everyone else has gone home. And do that until the last moment of life. You get one shot. Make it the best shot each and every day. I tell my clients this. You can't change what happened yesterday, but you can learn from it. You can make the most of today, and you can set yourself up to have an even better tomorrow. It's how I live my life. It's why in everything that I've been doing over the last 5 years of my life, it's been all about defying expectations. It's those three things that keep me coming back for more, that keeps me pushing forward and wanting more from myself, wanting more out of this life, and then wanting to pass that on so that others can want the same things. A lot of people have looked at me and my life and my situation, and they always told me I had to start limiting myself, right? As I wrote here, they would look at my situation and my dreams and my goals and what I wanted, and they wanted them to shrink. They wanted them to fit inside their bubble and what they saw, what they thought I should be doing, what they thought my success looked like. And for many years, I stayed within that bubble. And I said, okay, fine. This is where I live, is in this little bubble here. This is where my success is, and it'll never get any bigger than this. I can still dream about it from time to time. I can imagine the what if. But I'm not going to even pretend to think that that's going to be my life at any point. It wasn't until I started having success in my own personal health, fitness, and mindset that I started to realize that if I put the work in, I can achieve things that people didn't expect of me. And there were those doubters when I started doing this journey. One of those that was not a doubter is sitting right over here, and that's my wife. My wife always knew that I could achieve on another level. And that's why she supported me and stood by me and never let me give up when things went bad. And I said, I don't know if I can do this, or I'll stop for you, or I'll do this, or I wanted to do that. And she said, no, you can do this. And I did it. Sometimes defying expectations means you have to rely on the kindness, the support, and the butt kicking of others. Which is why we talk about the importance, as we mentioned on the show several times, the importance of having that support system, of having your tribe, of having people in your life that can hold you accountable, that can get behind you and say, I believe in you. Without my wife, I'm not where I am today. There is no Vengeance book. There's no Catching Stars album. And one of the big reasons is because, let's be honest, a nice chunk of those songs are basically about my wife. Those are some of the most powerful songs I've ever written. There is no Positively Pat Sims. There's no Positively Unstoppable Challenge Champion. There's no Warriors Unleashed. So I'm grateful. She is one of the big reasons why I have excelled to the degree that I have, why I have defied expectations. Now, I wrote some questions for myself to ask just in case the live chat wasn't going crazy. But what was the moment I realized I could either accept the story others wrote for me or start writing my own? And I think that moment came the moment that my youngest son acknowledged my progress. And my youngest son was kind of oohing and awing over what I had accomplished and told me that he thought I was going to win the Positive Unstoppable Challenge. And up until that point, I don't recall that ever being the thing. And no, I don't think you did. I don't think anybody asked any questions on Facebook. There was another post where I asked for topics, and people gave me topics. I don't recall anybody asking me any questions on the Facebook group. Good evening, Mr. Brad Grigsby. Welcome to the show. Great to have you on here. On Warriors Unleashed, we're talking about, of course, defying expectations. But yeah, my son, it's amazing as a father what can happen when the people that are closest to you, which is your wife and your children, acknowledge your success. Tell you how proud they are of your success. That is truly just such a motivating and an inspiring thing. And I do remember when my youngest son started talking to me about my success and telling me how great I was doing and all that stuff, it really did flip a switch in my head to where I was starting to get there. But now all of a sudden, it gave me this unusually strange, large amount of confidence to where all of a sudden I believed that I could accomplish anything. And I do believe that that is the moment where I started revving a little hotter, running a little bit faster. You know, I didn't overdo it. I didn't start going crazy with everything, but I started mentally making that switch to think, you know, if I just do this, if I do this, I'm going to find success here. You know, it was after that I started getting, you know, going out for Let's Make a Deal. It was after that I did the skydiving thing, all that stuff. It was an incredible time. All right, in the live chat, we do have a couple questions. What's an exception or what's an expectation that suddenly changed when you've been working hard towards your success? All right. So here's the deal. There's not a lot of people out there who have changed their expectations of me, even after everything that I've done over the past 5 years. I guarantee you, there's a lot of people out there that are still looking at everything that I do and basically are saying to themselves at least, that they're not as open to me about it anymore. I think because they know that, you know, telling me to knock it off or slow down or them's fighting words, you know. I'm a much more passionate, motivated person now. So I don't think there's a lot of changes to people's expectations of me in terms of what I am capable of in terms of success, right? But there are a lot of people who now believe that I'm probably a bit more reliable when it comes to sticking with something. All right, so they know that if they ask me to do something and I say yes, they know it's going to get done. And or if they get into something and I get into something with them, that they know that that's going to last more than just a couple of days or weeks, that I'm more long-term with how I do things than short-term. I think most of it changed in me, where I started to believe in me, and the expectation in me was that it was not limited to age mainly, right? Because it used to be I was told, I mean, by the time I was 30, I was already being told, you're too old for this, you're too old for that, you're too old for this. I'm 45 now, right? And I started getting told around 41, 42, when I started going back out, I started auditioning for things, I started talking about, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. And the main answer I got was, you're too old. You're too old. You're too old. And when I realized that my expectations of myself had truly changed for success, in terms of my own head and thinking like I can achieve on another level, after my son gave me that push to really, my wife did too, my other son did too, but my youngest doesn't really express himself that way. So when he did it, it really sent me to the next level. But after that, in my own head, it was when I realized that someone telling me you're too old didn't matter to me. It didn't discourage me. When someone told me that you're not going to make it because of A, B, C, X, Y, Z, and none of those things had to do with talent or passion, I didn't care. And I kept moving forward. No one can tell me now you can't be successful. I tell my wife all the time, I feel it. I know it's going to happen. I just don't know when, but it will happen. I know it will. Because I believe in me. Do you believe that a support system is necessary to defy expectations? Why or why not? No, I do not. I think it's necessary eventually. I don't think it's necessary 100% of the time. I know that sounds weird, and it sounds maybe a little contradictory to what I just said. For me, the support system was invaluable. I needed it. But there are people out there that feel very alone. And it's very hard for them to find the right support system because they're untrusting, because they're antisocial, whatever the case may be. They don't like having other people involved in their life. And I would never want to place a limitation on that person because they don't feel comfortable having the support around them. And it would be more hypocritical of me to say that someone isn't capable of succeeding without a support system. It can be done. Now, I do believe that as you go through this adventure we call life, it's always better to do it with someone, to do it with your group, your tribe, to do it with the one you love, to find those people in your life that can lift you up. Because I do think you can be successful on your own, but I also know that you can be even more so when you have the right people behind you. So that's where I think it lands in terms of support. I do think it's very, very important. I think at some point it becomes essential, but I can't say 100% you have to have support in order to defy expectations. I think that's actually part of defying expectations, right? Is proving someone wrong. And if I were to come out and say, you have to have support. You have to have multiple people behind you. You have to have somebody behind you lifting you up and keeping you going. And then you come out and you go, I just pushed myself. I proved you wrong. Like, that's defying expectations right there. Chris Hall says, I believe not. I've had to learn how to be my own support. What of those that have assistance to defy expectations? Am I reading that wrong? Assistance to defy, like enhancers, pro athletes, or in your case, a fake metal limb. Is their success less warranted or justified to be? Why or why not? Interesting question. So basically, let me just say it. So our performance enhancers, right, such as steroids, testosterone boosters, the illegal kind, human growth hormone, are those kinds of things, like, do those, is that success less warranted because of them or justified? And I think it depends on who you ask. Now, if you're asking me, it's not my place to say because it's not my success that we're talking about. Now, my fake arm is not an enhancer. It's not a performance enhancer. In anything, it's a performance inhibitor. What it did was it allowed me to be more pain-free on a regular basis. I don't sit here in pain 24/7 anymore. That's a benefit, right? But I had to work through pain. I had to work through the limitations of a replaced shoulder in order to find the success that I have today. So for me, the fake shoulder is part of defying expectations. Just last week on Fabulous Friday, Chris Hall, buddy Chris Hall, got a shout out on there. And as his fast track coach, I got a little shout out of my own. And Dallas mentioned the shoulder thing. He was raving about my recovery from shoulder replacement. And so every time we talk about it, every time I talk about it, I'm proud of it because I feel like I've done a lot of things with my shoulder that a very small percentage of people have ever done with a shoulder replacement as effectively and as safely as I have. And I listen to my shoulder. I make sure that if I'm hurting or if there's a little pain there for whatever reason, I listen to it. I back off when I need to. I rest when I need to. I listen. I train smart. Or as Dallas likes to say, smart or something like that, where it's smart and hard combined. So, but yeah, I mean, if you're taking performance enhancers, yeah, it's kind of a shortcut to success, but not all shortcuts are equal. There's so many variables that go into it, so you could say, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Ronnie Coleman, Dorian Yates, line them all up, bodybuilders, right? Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, you line up these pro wrestlers. And I'm pretty sure every single one that I mentioned has been on steroids at some point in their career, right? Are we to say that Arnold's success isn't still earned? He still had to put in the work. He still trained like a beast, right? So did Dorian Yates. So did Ronnie Coleman. So did The Rock. So did Stone Cold. So did Hulk Hogan. So who's to say? It's not my decision. Again, I'm not going to sit here and limit somebody else and say that it doesn't count, because I'm the one that benefited from it. I'm the audience. I'm the reason they did it in the first place because they're trying to wow the audience. They're trying to win over fans so they could become big names. So, to each their own in that case. If it's competitive, then, I think, when you're talking, again, baseball, football and stuff, it's another one of those things where I'm just like, you take away, you make it illegal to do something like that, people find a way. People are like the dinosaurs of Jurassic Park. They find a way. Not that I don't have new support circles that I appreciate, but my family and inherent support isn't as big of a support or presence as I would like it. It wasn't until I joined DDPY until I saw a change. It has to be the right support. That's correct. Brad jumps in. Defying expectations. You can be okay with the status quo or defy the status quo. When I started DDPY and Transformation University, I already had the mindset and gradually built toward unstoppable. I've busted through a lot of barriers for my age. Mindset off the chart. Pat, a great part of it. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Always appreciate it when I get a little shout out there. Excuses are just that, excuses. I show what can be done with dedication. All can be done. What about Ozempic or other weight loss shots? Should that be considered success or defying expectations when they work? Again, I think that's the standard health and fitness answer. It depends. All right. There are people who legitimately need Ozempic. All right. I'm not talking about all the Hollywood stars and things like that. Like, there's this big debate going on right now that says that there are people, more people than we would think, who need Ozempic to lose weight and be successful. I think it's much, much less than what we're getting, and especially when it's like, oh, doctor reacts to. Well, where are they getting the Ozempic most of the time? It's the subscription. You don't walk into CVS and just walk up to a counter and grab Ozempic and give yourself a shot. It has to be prescribed. So this is why there's a lot of mistrust in healthcare when it comes to health and fitness, because a doctor's going to tell you, no, eating right and exercising isn't going to work for everybody, even though it worked for hundreds of years, thousands of years. We were able to be healthy by eating right. And I mean, not thousands. Yeah, I know life expectancy wasn't that long, but medical science has advanced to the point where we can stay alive longer. But something like Ozempic is, you see people that are misusing it. And it's a vanity thing. It's not a health and fitness thing. It's a vanity thing. You get to that point where you look like you haven't eaten anything in weeks and months, right? We had Angie Cunningham on the show, who is a DDPY warrior from back in the day. She's on the Diamond Dozen. She's on Stand Up 2.0. She was on the 5-year anniversary show. She had the gastric bypass. And I don't have a problem with people who have to use those tools, because they've gone through everything else, legitimately gone through everything else, and just everything kept failing on them. And so it becomes a process to which they've gone through every other option, and now they're down to this, right? As long as they understand, which Angie did, and other people I've talked with did, they understand that they still have to fix the underlying problem. They don't let Ozempic or the gastric bypass just mask the problem and just get down to their goal weight, or they just keep losing weight and losing weight. They have to still fix the problem. All right? And yes, diabetics are the main people who get prescribed Ozempic. It has helped a lot of diabetics in the past, gastric bypass. There's a lot of people that have messed their bodies up so much over the years that, just standard nutrition and exercise doesn't seem to do the trick. And the gastric bypass can help them control their lifestyles, can help with it. There are benefits to these things. It's, again, and it says, it's right here, the chat also said, when it becomes a vanity thing, that's a problem. All right? And it works, too, even when you're talking about just eating and working out. When it becomes vanity, you're losing weight not to be healthy, but you're losing weight to get skinny. Those are two different concepts. All right? Now let's be real. I want to stop for a second, and I want to this is why my shows can go on, because I go off topic. I want to stop for a second, and I want to say that I think there's vanity in everything we do. I put it out there. Nobody loses weight 100% just because they're going to get healthier. There's a little vanity in everything. There's that little added bonus of getting a little more attractive to more people as you go. There's something to be said about the idea that you think you're getting more attractive to your wife or your husband, that you're looking better in photographs, that you're not ashamed to have someone take a video of you. It happens. How many people lift weights because it doesn't improve the way you look? It's strictly a health thing. Let's be real. I promised honesty from me to you guys, so I'm being real. I lift weights because I'd like to see some muscle on my body. I'd like to be confident and look good When I take my shirt off and I go to the beach, which I don't like to do. When I go to the pool, we'll do that. I love going to the pool. I'm a pool guy. I'm not a beach guy, which is weird for a Southern California boy. But all right, I could go on too long, so I'm gonna reel it back a little bit because we got some more chat things. Thank you so much, guys, for jumping in that chat. I love the fact that you guys are active. That makes my job a lot easier because, boom, I can take a look and I can just let you guys run the show. This show is as much yours as it is mine, and it allows me basically to skip through a lot of what I wrote. Like, look at all this. Look at all this. We're on page 2. we're not getting through a lot of this. All right. Ron jumps in. I got down to 189 from 300 on Ozempic. I was put on it for diabetes control. What I noticed was the muscle loss and how weak I became. I really had to ramp up my training to start putting on muscle. Yeah. Everything has its ups and downs. It's about finding balance. To me, I think that's the key to life, is finding balance, right? I work my ass off every week, every day. I have my job. I've got my shows. I've got my music. I'm trying to write another book. I work out. I have my family. I make time for all of that. I find balance so that my family doesn't feel neglected, so that I put ample time into my shows so that you guys don't walk away going, well, what the hell was that? What was the point of that? So that my albums are worth listening to, not just once, but over and over and over. So that my books are worth reading. So that my workouts are effective. So, yeah, it's all about the give and take, finding balance in life. I think it's a vanity or health thing. If you're diabetic, it can help, but not a shortcut. Yes, shortcuts never work. Remember that. If you're doing it as a shortcut, your odds of rebounding and putting all the weight back on and more, through the roof. All right. What is your opinion? Like, how long should one go trying different things before resulting to surgery or medical assistance for weight loss, as an example? You and I both tried for years before. I'll be honest with you, a lot of my failures were my failures. And I think you have to have honest discussions with yourself over why you failed. Was the failure the part of the food you ate? Was the failure the part of your workouts? Was the failure on you because you didn't really dedicate yourself to it? Or was the failure the part of there's something else at play? That does happen. I'm not trying to take that away from anybody. Something else being at play happens all the time. All right? Having a weak digestive system. I had diverticulitis. I'm missing a foot of my colon. That affects me in ways that suck. All right? There's people who have metabolisms that are just dead, or they've crashed and burned. That makes it very difficult for them to really have an effective nutrition program. All right, there's a lot of things. There's just so many variables in health and fitness, and it's hard for me to say that there's a specific timeline. I think what it is working with whoever you can, people that you trust, right, to find what works for you. And yes, that is going to mean some trial and error. It might mean working with multiple doctors so that you can have multiple opinions from doctors, right? And it's not that you're looking for the doctor that's going to tell you what you want to hear. What you want is the doctor that's going to come in and just be brutally honest with you. That's what you want. See, I don't want a doctor that's going to come in and just feed me a bunch of lines. My surgeon won me over because he was like, no, 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 no. And after one question, he went, okay, we're doing this. I'm not asking you anymore. Here, we're doing this. It's a quality of life issue. And was just right up front and with me. And I'd known I needed to have my shoulder replaced. I knew that. I knew that years before. But I was so unhealthy, they wouldn't do the surgery. Now that I was healthy, I didn't want the surgery. So every time I went to the doctor, I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And they were like, all right, we won't do it. Whatever I wanted, they said. And that's a problem. I think that's a big problem in health and fitness. Now whatever we say goes. Oh no, doc, I'm just an unhealthy I'm just too big. I'm not. This is who I am. You're right. You're right. So why would I interfere with you being who you want to be? You know what I mean? Like, I think that medicine, a lot of doctors do that. I don't want a yes man as a doctor. I want a guy that's just going to tell it to me straight. If I still don't like the answer, I'll go get another opinion, sure. But as long as they're being upfront and honest with me, that's all that matters. Let's see. Before we get into some other stuff, I do want to definitely hit up. Brad says, my daughter having gastric bypass in June. I support my kids, but after what I've done, I push that she can do without it. But it's her decision. Fought weight since high school, but restrictive, and there's complications. Yeah, and that's another thing. Maybe this is her way of defying those expectations within her. We don't always know what other people are going through. We like to think we do, and sometimes our success makes us think that we've figured it out. We've got it worked out, and someone else comes in and they try to do what we do, and they fall on their face. I've had a lot of guys that come to me, and they're like, oh, how'd you do it? And I'll give them the formula of how I figured it out. And they're like, no, I don't want to know how you figured it out. I just want to know what you did. Because they just want to try to replicate what I did. And it's extremely difficult for someone to replicate someone else's success. Unless it's an extreme thing, right? You can replicate a Biggest Loser contestant's success. Because they worked out like 12 hours a day. They restricted their calorie intake to the bare minimum. That you can affect change in anybody by doing that. All right? But even they had varied degrees of success. And then after the fact, they all shot back up in weight. Can do it through discipline, nutrition, consistency. I think they jump too much now, doling out meds and surgery. I agree. I do agree. I'm not saying they don't. I do agree with that. I think a lot of people are looking for the quick fix because that's what we are now. We are a society of quick fixes. We are instant gratification. We don't want to wait for a year for a movie to come out on home video so that we can afford to go see it. We want it now. And so now a movie will go into theater, and within 60 to 90 days, it's already streaming at home. And you can watch it at home. You want to know what's going on on the other side of the world? You can go on the internet, boom, there it is. We don't have to wait anymore. There's so many things that you don't have to wait for. And so we're trying to put that into every aspect of our lives, but the best things in life are the things that we have to earn through hard work, through dedication, through discipline. You don't quit smoking like that. You don't quit smoking overnight. It's a process. And some would say you never quit smoking. You just fight it. I know people that can quit smoking and then after a few weeks, few months, whatever, the cravings go away. They're good to go. People are, they'll never touch a cigarette again. The smell of them disgusts me at this point, but I can't even guarantee that I'll never pick up a cigarette, never pick up a cigar or a pipe ever again. A smoking pipe, not a... Come on, get out of there. Stop it. But, I mean, like, I can't I can't guarantee you that because, I mean, it's an addiction for a reason. It's about fighting that addiction. And even that is defying expectations. You know, I don't know how much I really believed I could quit smoking until it happened. Until I think I hit probably 6 months was the first time I went, I can do this. I can. My doctor wouldn't touch the topic of Ozempic or weight loss option. He pretended I didn't bring it up. Now, is that because he didn't believe that Ozempic or any other surgery or something was appropriate or was the answer? Or did he just not think you needed to lose weight at all? I don't know what was his reasoning for that. I'm interested. Always a challenge, ongoing alcohol, fighting the demons. Yeah, I agree. Addiction is addiction. It's people like to make light of it. They like to say, oh, it's not a, you know, it's a choice, right? It might have been a choice the first time we did it. But the other 8 million times we did it, I don't remember having to make a decision if I was going to have a cigarette or not. You know how many times I lit up a second cigarette just cause? Like, just because the first one was done, and I'm like, wow, I'm not done smoking. Light the second one with the first one. I want to get on to the next thing here. One of the reasons that this topic stands out to me was last week I mentioned Dallas threw a little shout out my way on the Fabulous Friday, and Diamond Dallas Page kind of epitomizes to me defying expectations, and that's why I included him on the thumbnail for the YouTube feed. And I mention it because of the amount of weight I gained since quitting smoking, and even more weight gaining and fluctuation due to perimenopause. I just wanted information. He and the nurse just moved on. Yeah. Well, you know, it's a very I don't know why they wouldn't at least address it with you, but I mean, they could have at least been like, well, you know, we can go over some options with you, but yeah, just to move on, that's kind of funny. But I want to read to you this that I wrote up here. Diamond Dallas Page is a perfect example because he defied expectations in 2 different chapters. First as a wrestler, then as a life-transforming fitness leader. Now, I'm sure he's defied expectations his whole life, but I'm focusing here on pro wrestling and, of course, with DDPY. Diamond Dallas Page was not the obvious wrestling success story. He became a major wrestling star later at an age when many wrestlers were already established or slowing down. Yet he kept learning, developing his character, and sharpening his in-ring psychology. He eventually became a 3-time WCW World Champion. WWE inducted him into the Hall of Fame in 2017. DDP's story reminds us that late does not mean too late. Sometimes your breakthrough comes after everyone else thinks that your window is closed. So when everyone probably assumed that Dallas's wrestling career was over, that's when it was just beginning. Dallas was a manager and a commentator, and they came to him at one point and said, we have to let you go. You're too outlandish for pro wrestling. You're kind of outshining the wrestlers that he's managing, and he was bigger than half the guys he was managing. So Dallas said, well, I'm not done with pro wrestling, and he trained to be a wrestler, and he got involved, and I remember him telling the story that he got laughed at by the Fabulous Freebirds, and people just thought, no, you can't start your career in ring now. But he defied the expectations of what someone could do at that age in the professional wrestling business. And here's how he defied expectations. He was not positioned like the typical young wrestling prodigy. He had to reinvent himself and grow into credibility. And one of the things he did was he didn't just go out there and constantly evolve. One of the things he did was he listened, right? He had to be kind of stripped down from the over-the-top gimmicky wrestler and Eric Bischoff was actually one of the guys that told him, like, you need to start pulling back and just be DDP. You don't need all these gimmicks. You can just go out there and just organically get over. And that's exactly what he did. He turned charisma, work ethic, connection with the fans, and the diamond cutter into a movement. A lot of people forget nowadays that the original People's Champ was DDP, not The Rock. He studied the craft of professional wrestling. He embraced mentorship, including learning from people like Dusty Rhodes and Jake the Snake Roberts. And here's the key, learning the positives as well as the negatives. Learning what to do as well as what not to do. He made his own energy impossible to ignore. I want you to remember that. You want to make it, especially in something like entertainment. You want to make it in something that requires you to get noticed. You have to make it so that you're impossible to ignore. It's something that I strive for every time I do a show. When someone clicks on my show, whether it be because of the title, the thumbnail, the topic, whatever it is, whatever reason they chose to click on my thumbnail, I want them to find in me, in what I'm presenting, to be something that catches their attention further and makes them stick around for more. I want to be impossible to ignore. He owned his personality instead of trying to be a copy of someone else. Again, very, very important. Don't strive to be what other people are or what other people want you to be. You need to strive to be authentically you, the best version of you. WANT's Wushu Wendy said something very important one time when I was feeling a little down about some of my numbers. I didn't feel like the show was taking off the way I wanted it to. And she came to me and she said, "Are you growing?" I said, "Yes, I am." She goes, "Are you organically growing?" Meaning I'm not out there buying views. I'm not buying subscribers. She said, "Are you organically growing because of your content?" I said, "Yes." She said, "You know why you're growing because of what you're doing?" I said, "Why?" She said, "Because of you." It's not just what you're talking about. It's you. You're the glue that holds all of this together. It's your show. It's got your name on it. It's your charisma they're coming back for. It's your personality. The topic might get them in the door, but you're the one that keeps them there. Because I'm me. I'm not trying to be somebody else. I'm not trying to be the Howard Stern of YouTube podcasting or radio or any of that stuff. I'm not trying to be anybody but me, and that's part of why I name myself Positively Pat Sims. Because I'm a positive individual, that's number one. But it's because I'm positively me. And if you know me outside of here, you know that this is me there too. I'm genuine here and outside of here. What you see here is what you get. And then we get to the era of DDPY. DDP originally developed DDPY for people like himself who had suffered injuries from high-impact sports. And the program grew into a system built around movement, dynamic resistance, flexibility, strength, and owning your life. The second act of DDP's life may be even more powerful than the first. He went from winning titles to helping people win their lives back. He went from winning titles to presenting titles. He went from a WCW World Heavyweight Champion to jumping on a Zoom call to tell me that I was now a positively unstoppable challenge champion. That's why DDPY means something very personal to me. It's not just about fitness. It's about possibility. It's about looking at the mountain in front of you and saying, I may not climb it the way someone else does, but I'm still climbing. I think that's powerful. I don't have to do things the way everybody else does. I don't expect everyone to do things the way that I do them. Brad, Chris, my fast track clients, I give them information, I give them inspiration. It's what they do with it that matters. It's how they make it their own, how they take ownership of it and implement it into their lives for long-term success, defying the expectations of everyone around them. DDP fan, read his books, Wisdom, Grit, Window Never Closed, Never Too Old, Challenge to Change. It comes down to us. More pain to not change or challenging yourself. Moment of truth. Been there. Change the minds. Be a force. Lead by example and be genuine. Arthur Borman. So many DDPY people got involved in the program because of Arthur Borman. That's one of the reasons I started doing DDPY. When you looked up DDPY back when I first started, which was before 2021, Arthur Borman was who you found. He was a disabled Gulf War veteran, became one of the most famous DDPY transformation story. He is the epitome of defying expectations. His story spread widely because it showed a man many people would have counted out, choosing to fight for his mobility, health, and confidence. DDPY's own success story page identifies him as a disabled veteran of the 1990-91 Persian Gulf War. Arthur Borman's story is powerful because the victory wasn't just weight loss, it was belief coming back to life. Arthur Borman's story is inspiring. The only thing that I find more inspiring than the initial transformation, the initial success, is what people do after the fact. Once people have lost the weight, once people have gotten healthy, once people have gotten their fitness in order, what are they doing with it? That, to me, is the most powerful thing. Because I've seen transformation after transformation after transformation. I've seen people do amazing things going from unhealthy, morbidly obese to healthy and not morbidly obese. Because I don't want to throw skinnier, but thinner, healthier, that kind of thing. I've seen those transformations over and over and over. You know what I don't see as much? Is what they did after the fact. What did they do with that success? It's tough to look at The Biggest Loser and be inspired when you know so many of them packed on the pounds and then some after the fact, mainly because The Biggest Loser never implemented a program for the people afterwards to make sure they were still keeping up with the program and still doing the right things. There was no aftercare program for these guys. I don't look at myself as being this huge inspirational person. I just don't. I try to stay a little bit humble. You know, I have my ego, same as anybody else. I would say that I defy expectations on a daily basis. I have an ego, all right? But I wouldn't say I'm cocky about it. And I don't think of myself in terms of, I'm someone that everyone should be looking up to and that kind of thing. But, if I'm going to speak honestly, like I told you I would, what I've done since I hit my goal weight in 2021, I think has been freaking amazing. I was a DDPY champ after hitting my goal weight. After I hit my goal weight, I became a DDPY instructor. I was on Let's Make a Deal. I did some pretty incredible things. I went to WrestleMania. I went to, I did all kinds of stuff. I've lived my life to the fullest since that time. I've overcome total shoulder replacement. I have started 4 YouTube and WANT radio shows. I have written a book. I've released a comedy album, which is no longer available, but I've also released an original music album that is available, that I'm super proud of. All that stuff is me defying expectations and me continuing to push forward after the initial success. So I always say, like, the initial success will get you in the door. The initial success will get people through the door. It's what you do with that success that gets people coming back again and again and again. If you show someone having a huge transformation and then as soon as they're done with that transformation, they balloon back up, the faith goes away. The passion and the desire to keep pushing forward in that particular avenue goes away. So show me not just the success, but what they do with it afterwards. That's what we do here. It's what I try to do and talk with you guys about here is I like having people coming on, and don't just tell me about your success, but tell me about your success and then tell me about everything you've done since, all the cool stuff. That's why Scotty Boots, my buddy, Scotty Boots was talked about today on the Fabulous Friday for DDPY, because Scotty is that kind of guy. He has continued to push himself. That's why he was on my show, the 5-year anniversary show. Scotty is an inspiration to me. I love watching Scotty Boots. Chris Hall, did you change where you're watching us at on YouTube? I swear you were under Chris Hall Transformation 2026, and now there's Chris Hall 5114. Or are you a different Chris? Do we have 2 Chris Halls in the live chat? That'd be cool. 2 Chris Halls. DDP says to be a success, you have to have a slight ego. No pro wrestler becomes world champ without a slight. Well, yeah, pro wrestling, yeah. There's a lot of things you have to be in pro wrestling to be successful. You have to believe in yourself. Walker and double crutches to running. I used a walker and cane 15 months ago to walker gone. June, cane very sparingly. What can change, adapt, improve? I had to. My phone died. As long as you're here, Mr. Chris Hall, we love having you here. It's great to have all you guys here. Truly is. But the thing is, DDPY or DDP is just one example of defying. I want to give you a few more examples of people who have defied expectations before we wrap the show up. And I wanted to go a little bit outside the box with names you might know, but some names you might not know. I didn't want to go like the standard route of some of the biggest names in sports and entertainment. So what I wanted to give you was some maybe outside the box thinking here. Getting down to 189 was an unexpected goal that I hit. I mentioned the muscle loss, but my new goal is to look like the thumbnail you made of our episode. That was an awesome thumbnail. It was one of my favorite thumbnails. That was a really good, that was a really good thumbnail. I like that one. My aftercare after my success is to get swole. It's a good goal. Yeah. See, my goal for the last 2 years has been to try to transform my body so that I look muscular without having to flex, right? And I found that that's becoming more challenging. Like, I'm putting on muscle. I can see that my arms are thicker, they're more muscular, but they're not defined. And a lot of that is because it's extremely difficult for me to cut what I eat. Because the more you train, the more you need to eat. You need to eat before you work out for energy. You need to protein up afterwards. There's all kinds of things that you got to do. And it's very hard for me to get back into that caloric deficit mode because I tell everyone this. It's not that I love working out. All right. Working out's very hard. It's very physically taxing. It's mentally taxing. It's very challenging. What I love is the results. Right? But in order to get the results I want, I need to work out in a way that's going to challenge me, in a way that's going to push me further each and every time. You know, I can take a beginner DDPY workout and I can make that sucker extremely challenging just by how I engage, by how deep I get into positions and how I move through movements. I can take something like energy and I can jack my heart rate up into the green or red zone at will. And that's I think that's a gift in some sense, because I know a lot of people. My wife's one of them. My wife can't get her heart rate up to save her life, and I've seen her work super hard, like pushing herself where she can't breathe, and she's like, she can't get up. She's worked so hard, and her heart rate's like 90. And I'm like, either your heart rate monitor is broken or you have like the healthiest heart I've ever seen. And I was convincing myself that she always had a bad heart rate monitor. But not every heart rate monitor gives the same results. So she's got to have a healthy heart. I'll tell you that right now. All right. So here's some examples of people who defied expectations. Number 1, Wilma Rudolph. Anybody know that name? I'll give you 10 seconds. No. But what she was, she went from a childhood illness to Olympic greatness. Wilma Rudolph overcame polio as a child and became one of the greatest sprinters in history. She became the first American woman to win 3 track and field gold medals at 1 Olympic Games. People could have defined her by her illness, disability, and limitation. But yet she defied those expectations and what others defined her as. She rebuilt her body, trained relentlessly, and turned what looked like a permanent limitation into a legendary athletic career. Wilma Rudolph reminds us that where you start does not determine where you finish. So a beautiful story right there. Number 2, Bethany Hamilton. My resting heart rate is in the 50s, yeah. DDPY, what do we got here? DDP Yoga Stroke Rehab. First-time listener, love the show. Dude, welcome. Thank you so much for jumping in and joining us for your first Warriors Unleashed. It is great to have you here. Always great to have a new viewer, listener, whatever it is, whether you're on WA&T or right here on YouTube. Awesome. Great to have you on here. If you want to get involved and get interactive, use that live chat. Thank you so much. Great to have you on here. I hope I said that right. DDP Yoga Stroke Rehab. Or is it DD Yoga's Troker Ehab? I don't know. I'm just kidding around. All right. Bethany Hamilton, you might remember as I read here, lost an arm but kept chasing the waves. Bethany Hamilton lost her arm in a shark attack at age 13. She returned. This is someone that I cannot, I cannot even imagine this. She returned to surfing within about a month and went on to build a professional surfing career. Most people would have understood if she never surfed again. I would have. She adapted her technique, faced fear, leaned on faith and family, and refused to let trauma steal her passion. I have all the respect in the world for that because I'm deathly afraid of the ocean. Bethany Hamilton did not wait for life to become easy again. She learned how to ride the wave differently. Adapt. She knew what she wanted. She knew what she was passionate about. And she didn't let the limitation hold her back. She adapted. And she moved forward. Jim Abbott, Major League pitcher born without a right hand. Jim Abbott was born without a right hand, yet became a Major League Baseball pitcher. He played in the MLB from 1989 to 1999, and in fact, I got to see him play right here when he played for at the time, the California Angels, right here in Anaheim. He threw a no-hitter for the New York Yankees in 1993. Baseball is a sport where fielding and throwing mechanics are everything when you're on the field. People could have assumed the physical challenge was too much. However, he developed a unique pitching and fielding method. mastered repetition and turned adaptation into excellence. Jim Abbott did not need the game to lower its standard. He found a way to meet the standard differently and then excel at that. And so if you ever watch Jim Abbott, he would place a left-handed glove on his right, I want to say hand, but it wasn't a hand. It was like a nub there. He would put the glove on there, and then he would pitch with the left hand. And right as he's throwing the ball, he would then slide his left hand into the glove so that he was ready to field if the ball got hit his way. And if the ball did, and he had to field it, he would then have to then tuck the glove, pull the glove out, and throw. This was something that took years of practice and repetition to master. And at the end of the day, he is remembered as being a Yankees pitcher that overcame everything to throw a no-hitter in the major leagues. It's great to be here, man. Yeah, I have been using DDPY to rehab my strokes. Was 398, now I'm 248. Congratulations, my friend. That is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Chat, give it up for DDP Yoga Stroke Rehab. That's 150 pounds. Was told by doctors that I can never use my right side again just because my left brain is dead. That is incredible. Absolutely. He said, yeah, I understand. I'm going to do it anyway. That, ladies and gentlemen, is defying expectations. It's always amazing when a doctor tells you what you can't do. And then the next time you see him, you go, hey doc, guess what I did? And I always preface this, as long as you're doing it safe. Do it safely and effectively. All right? That's my main thing. I just don't want to see someone try to defy expectations out of spite, right? Which we all do sometimes, and then hurt themselves in the process, right? I could have very easily said, "Oh, no, I'm going to prove you wrong, doc," and then hurt myself, which Dallas was always worried I was going to do, and then back up in the hospital having this all done again. I was not going to let that happen. I rehabbed this thing the way I needed to. Was very, very smart. You can both be humble and have a huge ego. Yeah, you can. I try to lean more towards humble, but it's tough. When you achieve, I think you got to give yourself some credit. You know, I was talking with my son the other day. It was a tough conversation, but it was one that I felt we had to have, and I was getting a little emotional, and I told him, I said, look, it doesn't matter what it is you want to achieve when you're working hard, and when you achieve it and you've earned it, you're going to feel like you accomplished something special. The people that just have things handed to them, right? People are sitting around waiting for people to hand things to them. It's not the same. There's no real sense of accomplishment there because it wasn't earned. All right? When I finished writing my book and I published my book, I had pride there. I was proud of that. I celebrated that. When my album got released on April 3rd this month, and people actually went out of their way to listen to it and then tell me that they enjoyed it. They would tell me what their favorite songs were. And it just made me so proud. Now, do I think that I'm the best writer out there? Do I think I'm the best singer and my album's the best ever made? No. Do I think they're damn good? Yep. I do. So I do have my ego, but I try to keep it in check as best as I can. Today did my first 2 Blue Diamond workouts. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Great job, dude. Fully standing. That is so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you so much for being here on this show. Let's wrap this. Let's keep moving here. Misty Copeland changed the image of ballet. Like I said, we're going a A little outside the box here, names you may or may not know. Misty Copeland started ballet at 13, which is late by elite ballet standards. In 2015, she became the first African-American woman promoted to principal dancers in American Ballet Theater's 75-year history. She entered a world with narrow expectations about race, body type, age, and tradition. She combined discipline, artistry, strength, and representation. She did not just succeed in the system, she expanded what the system could see. You know my story, Brad. Aaron Jacobs here. Aaron, that's my middle name. Patrick, positively Pat, Aaron Sims, spelled the same way, 2 A's. Misty Copeland did not just take a place on the stage. She made room for others to see themselves on that stage too. And I think that's an important part. When we get a certain level of success, when we truly defy expectations, one of the parts about keys to success that we talked about on an earlier show is sharing that success with others. Building up others to also achieve levels of success that help them defy expectations. So many stories are just incredible. All right. And we're running a little late. It's been a great time here. It's been a great show. I've loved the live chat and how strong you guys have been in the live chat. I want to leave you guys with my closing thought that I wrote here. I actually, in coming up with it, I thought about this today. This was the last thing I wrote down, last thing I thought about. Defying expectations does not mean the odds were fake. The odds are real. The obstacles you face are real. The pain is real. But so is your resilience. So is your faith. So is your discipline. And so is the community you surround yourself with. And finally, so is the warrior inside you that says, I'm not done yet. Take that with you throughout your week. And as we wrap up the show, let me remind you guys that tomorrow is the Positively Pat Sims show at 7 a.m., where we are going to be discussing the Netflix docuseries, Hulk Hogan, Real American. It's just going to be me and my DDPY buddy, George Fenmore, as we're going to be discussing that docuseries. Just us two, brother. And it's going to be a good time because it was a very interesting documentary, to say the least. And we're really focusing on what we believe is fact or fiction, because you never know with the Hulkster. He has been known to stretch the truth, if not just all out lie about it. See you later, Brad. It's great. If anything, it made me not like the Hulk. I mean, because it was trying to be very honest before we go, it just talked about mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, and we'll get into it tomorrow. The Hulk became a victim, I think, of his own ego and his own celebrity. And he got to a point where he thought that he was bigger than the industry that helped make him, and there's an argument to be made for it. You could arguably say that Hogan is the biggest star in the history of professional wrestling. So it's going to be an interesting conversation with our buddy George Fenmore tomorrow. Also, guys, don't forget, I've mentioned it a couple times on the show, get on over to Amazon right now. Get your copy of Vengeance. You can pick it up on Kindle, paperback, or hardcover. It is available right now. It's been available for a couple months. So if you haven't gotten your copy, Make sure you get on over there and pick it up today. And keep an eye out, guys. Join us on the Facebook group, Warriors Unleashed, where you can find other inspiring stories and warriors. And we will have, coming up soon, some special challenges and so forth where you can win your own autographed copy of Vengeance. So keep an eye out for that. Also available across all major audio streaming platforms, Catching Stars. It's out now. You can find it on Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Pandora, and more. It features 12 of my original songs, featuring the likes of my wife, Kimberly Sims, and my friends, Kelly Early and Jacqueline Cuellar. So if you're looking for an album that features some great music, inspirational music, fun music, love songs, you want it, you got it, Catching Stars. All right, guys, before we wrap things up, thank you so much for joining us here on Warriors Unleashed. I hope you got as much out of it as I did. And don't forget, you can tune in to WANT Radio 24/7. Anytime, any place, go to WANTradio.com or jump on over to the Live 365 app and just look up WANT Radio, and you can listen anytime, any place. And if you're ever looking for any of our Positively Pat Sims content that you may have missed, live shows, go to YouTube, where you can watch on demand 24/7. And not only can you hear At the Movies and the Positively Pat Sims Show and Warriors Unleashed, but we also have our WWE reaction shows. We also have our game night show that's exclusive to YouTube, where my kids and I, we have a lot of fun playing old school mobile and current video games. So check that out. It's an exciting time for the Positively Pat Sims WANT and YouTube channels. So can't wait to keep pushing forward. We'll see you there. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, to keep in your mind what I always say, and that is to get inspired, to be an inspiration. So long, everybody. Have a great rest of your night. Have a great weekend. I'll see you tomorrow on the Positively Pat Sims Show. So long, everybody.
The lights are dim, but the room still hums with the echoes of laughter and the moments we spun. Every honest word is like a stone in a stream. It rippled, it lingered, it shaped our dream. And if you ever wonder where I'll be, look to the screen, I'll be there, you'll see. the screen.